So we have some plants, and what we have to use is two different types. Has anyone seen these tissue culture plants? These are, yeah, excellent. These are excellent value. I love these. They are pest free, and there's nothing that will ruin this hobby quicker than pests. Can't stand pests, right? So these are a great way to avoid pests. I love them, and they're also in sizes that make it very easy to plant.
Do you have any tricks for acclimating them so they don't melt?
Yeah, so these can break down, and I don't know what the common denominator is. Sometimes these will melt on you. So you plant them all and they'll look good for like a day, and then all of a sudden they start browning and they disappear. I don't know what the trigger is. I don't know if it's high ammonia from, say, ammonia leaching from the soil, which is a desirable characteristic of the soil, so it cycles the tank. Instead of you having to add ammonia, it feeds the plants and gets the bacterial cycle going. I don't know what the trigger is. I would say the majority of time I don't have an issue when I plant these, but I have run across it. So I don't know. I don't have a magic bullet. If I knew that, I would share it.
Do you fertilize right away when you fill the water tank up?
Yes. So plants will start utilizing the fertilizers right away. So I fertilize from day one. Yep.
Do you take all the stuff that's on the bottom of those tissue plants off?
Yeah. In fact, I've got water right here. I need a volunteer. Where's Tanner? So what we're going to do is I'm going to do one, you're going to do the other two, okay? So watch carefully. I will. Okay, so we're going to take this out. It has either a liquid or a jelly in here, and this is kind of like both. So what we need to do is remove that, and that is the growing solution that is used for this tissue culture plant, and we need to remove it. So what we're going to do is we're going to dump it here into the water. I wish I could get this in front of y'all. And we're just going to kind of rinse it out. You can do this under the tap too. And this here plant is called Eleutheris acicularis, dwarf hairgrass. So we're going to have you do that, but I'm not done yet. So we don't want to plant it like this. This will be messy, it'll look clunky, it won't look good. So what we want to do is put this into portions. So for this plant here, we probably want portions about like this. Can you see that? And do you see how I broke it at the roots? Mm-hmm. So I want you to do that to all these and line these all up so that I can quickly plant them. And then the second type of plant form that we have here is Submerse Growth. So here we have pots. They come like this. And what we do is we squeeze this, and we can pull off, you're supposed to be able to pull off the pot itself. So you pull off the plastic. So I didn't even do it. So this is actually better. So there's the Rockwall. We don't want the Rockwall. We want to remove the Rockwall. So there's a little bit here in my hand. I'm going to set that aside. I'll rinse off the rest here. And now we have our plant. So this came out really easily. And again, we're going to section this off into pieces.
So how many for a pot?
Well, this pot here is actually maybe this 2. And the tissue culture is probably going to be 10. So bang for your buck, go tissue culture. This one here is called Hemianthus macranthomoides. It is a great mid-ground plant. So we're going to use it sparingly in here. It is a fine leaf plant. It will pretty much look like this when it grows in, but nice mounding effect of it. It's very thick when it's trimmed over and over. This is a very important aquascaping plant. It ties the aquascape together. So you can use more plants like, say, this booth around it, and it really shows off the booth. Yeah, see, everyone? Do you want me to pass this around? Duet.
What's the common name for that plant again?
The common plant is, I want to say it's pearlweed. And then we have some booths that we pulled. We pulled your entire booth collection, by the way. I figured if you didn't like that, you could just take it back. These are wonderful plants. They have a rhizome. So there's a rhizome here. You have to be careful not to bury the rhizome when you plant this. You can plant these roots. That's okay. And they don't need to be planted, which is kind of cool. It's a slow-growing plant, and it will flower underwater.
I actually had mine just flower the other day.
No, you're doing something right. Excellent. Yeah, it's beautiful. And they only last for a couple days. And they fall apart. So it's a really neat plant. And there's so many different varieties of this, and they all have crazy names. Like this one I think is like, what were they, Red Dragon? And
Yeah, there's all sorts of crazy.
yeah, so they have wavy green, and I don't know, there's just crazy names for it, and they're not scientific. They're just, that one looks like Dragonfire. So we're going to use some boosts in here. And then the last plant that we're going to put in here is this stem plant. And this is sold in bunches. So this wasn't rooted, and it's sold in bunches. So you can see it's been wrapped up. So there's maybe 10 stems in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually harvest this. I'm going to cut these off. And then Tanner here is going to put this piece back into the tank, and it will grow out. From every cut stem, there'll be 2 stems coming out. And you can propagate it forever just about that way. And you can get those really bushy effects. So if I keep coming across here, cut this, you see how many there are here, when it grows up, it's gonna be double. And then when I cut a little bit higher next time, it's gonna be double again. So you're gonna have so many of these, and it's gonna be so thick, and it's a beautiful plant. And it doesn't look like anything right now, right? It just kind of looks like mush. Yeah, but it's a wonderful plant. This is Rotella rotundifolia. It's one of my go-tos. It's many aquascapers' go-to plants. So we're going to plant these up quick as soon as Tanner gets on it.
If you were to estimate, how many plants did you get from this scape to start with?
Dollar value or?
Either way, if you know the dollar, I meant quantity.
Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bunches of Rotella. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 boost plants. I have Pearlweed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pots. So that gives you an idea for this size tank. One of the things you want to do is plant heavy from the beginning. It'll keep algae at bay, it'll fill in quicker, it will look nicer quicker, there'll be less maintenance overall. Plant heavily. Next, we're going to talk about planting, and then I think we're almost done. So if you have questions, fire them off.
I have one.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred substrate to work with?
I prefer aqua soil. I've used many different types of aqua soil. I find that they all work, and most of them work well. So I don't have a favorite. I do not have a favorite. Owasa does not make one right now. Yeah.
What's in there is Azu.
Yeah. This is that what it is? Azu? Yeah. This is my tool bag. This is what I use for planting and my maintenance. So I have everything that I need in here. So I have pin sets. I have long ones. I've got short ones. I've got my scissors in here. So I've got my wavy scissors. This is good for getting down in the foreground like so and getting a straight cut. I've got straight scissors like so. I've got, let's see, I've got a welder's brush, which is kind of crazy. This is for cleaning stones if you do get algae on them.
Is it, what is it, nylon, black?
Steel.
Oh, you steel.
Yeah. So these are handy. They take off algae really easily. So I do keep one of those handy. It can be used on wood as well. It'll actually take the outer layer of the wood off and make the wood look fresh and new. It's kind of interesting. I have a TDS pen.
Steel wool, ever.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Little
Seriously.
small- I had a customer once use steel wool to do what he was talking about, and it had fish in there, and the little fine particles of steel wool break off. It gets in the gills of the fish
Yeah.
and kills it.
Yeah.
Wiped out the whole thing. But he was doing exactly the same thing. That brush has, I guess, it's more coarse, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, this is a real coarse. This is called a welder's brush. Yeah. Once in a while, you will see a bristle fall off, so beware of that. And then I use the TDS pen at water changes all the time. TDS is a great indicator to make sure your source water is the same as your tank water. So mine I keep at about 120 ppm. So we're going to plant. So I'm going to get my pin sets out. So I use the two different types here. So fairly simple palette, but it's not a very big tank. And I selected these plants based on how big they get and how well they take to trimming, because we need to keep them controlled, otherwise all this cool stones I put in here are going to disappear, right? So we're going to do a hair grass in the front. So I'll go as quickly as I can so I can take questions.
Those are all relatively the same light level requirements.
Let's see. No, because Boost doesn't need as much light, but it can take it. So they all can work at high light levels. So this light here, I actually have this light thanks to you all, and I have tested it, and this will give me, it has given me 80 to 100 par in this range, and then 50 par down here at the base, which is perfect for high light. So this light that we're pairing on this will work with these plants very well.
It's no aqua light.
UP?
Aqua.
Yeah, up.
I didn't name it.
What else you got for me?
Anybody have any questions while he's planting?
Your favorite carpeting plant?
Favorite carpeting plant has got to be, it's a toss up between Dwarf Baby Tears and Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo fan? Yeah. Monte Carlo is interesting. You can grow, by the way, you can grow both out of substrate. I don't know if you know that. Monte Carlo is really cool because you can get it to drape. So if I planted some here, it would drape down. Yeah, so it'd be like vines hanging down. So it'd be a really good plant for this tank. I didn't see any back there, so.
Those are high demand plants.
Yeah, I bet it goes off the shelf fast.
Have you ever had any complete disasters?
Yes. Next question. So I actually have started this journey this January, and I started picking up the camera for the first time in this journey. And I've been doing this all to share my experience with all of you. And I completely wiped out. My contest tank for IAPLC, which is the Japanese International Aquascaping Contest, closes May 30th, started in January, so that was already behind. I wiped out in March. And I've got it all on film. So again, Jeff Miotke Aquascape, go take a look. It's all there for you to see. Episode 4 comes out Friday, and we're not to the wipeout part yet. So we're in the happy, hey, look at all this cool stuff. This is going great. I love it. And cliff. But I made the decision to rip the scape down and restart. I did what I did today. I sat down for just a little while, decided this is what I'm going to do, looked at my materials, and I put it together. And within 3 hours, the scape is all back together and growing again. So with any luck, I will still be entering this year. I don't know, because I got till May 30th. So I literally am crossing my fingers right now because I'm not home watching the tank. And I've got so much light above, it's like the sun. I've got CO2 pumping into it, and I'm dumping fertilizer in before I leave. And the WASA filter, I've got the oversized, I have the Biomaster 850 on it. It's pumping away, and I got the pre-filter cleaning it every day and just trimming it. And it was pretty much the worst possible time to have a wipeout. Yeah, I'm just like, really, people, I know how to do this. I honestly don't know, but it was some type of brown creeping death, and it wasn't algae, it wasn't diatoms, it wasn't dinoflagellates, it wasn't anything like that. It was so small, it's this kind of brown sludgy stuff. I almost want to say it was like fungus or bacteria, and it just got a hold in the tank, and it just coated everything. And I can fight any algae. You name the algae, I probably beat it, or I know what it is and stuff. I'd never seen this stuff, and I contact all my peers, and they're just like, oh, you're screwed. Okay. And I was. So I broke it down and cleaned everything up and restarted and didn't have the same problem. So I just got unlucky. So there's a lesson. Don't give up if you fail the first time. It's going to happen because this is a complex hobby, right? All that goes into it. You have the soil and the water chemistry, the artistry, the plant biology, the fish. All this stuff goes into it. It's an amazing hobby. So don't give up. Reach out to people and get help. Restart. Just don't give up. That's why I say pests will ruin this hobby faster than anything else. Pests it's impossible to avoid pests. You're going to run across them. It's how you deal with it. And if you remember it's the journey and not the destination, you're going to be okay. You know, this is the fun part. You know, me talking to you all today on this, it's the fun part. The wipeout, it happens. Put it behind you, move on. It's just a fish tank. It's just a fish tank, people. I'm sorry. I need that soil back, Adam. Where did that soil go? So it happens to the best of us. And the thing is, nobody shares their wipeouts. How many times have you seen on YouTube complete wipeout? No. You see the manicured tank and its perfection, and it's just an unrealistic expectation, especially for someone getting started. I think it does the hobby. It does the hobby no favors. So,
how old were you when you started your first fish tank?
7. Biotope. So I got a tank from a family friend, went to that lake I told you about, and I caught things. And I grabbed plants, and I grabbed sand, and I put them in the tank. It did okay. It wasn't great, but it did okay. Pretty good for a 7-year-old. Yeah. Yeah, bluegills and minnows and
Bluegills.
yeah, bluegills.
How big was your tank?
20 gallon. So I would catch just the the fry. Yeah, I would grab the net and catch the fry. Yeah, and then when they got too big, they went back in the lake, and then the bass ate them. There's only one reason you should be dry starting a tank, and that's get something to grow on a vertical surface that you cannot plant. That's, in my opinion, the only time you should dry start. So I could take, say, moss, chop it up, and then place it on this, kind of just mash it into this surface, let it go for about 3 months. And probably not everyone knows what a dry start is, so let me explain that real quick. So a dry start is I would bring in a little bit of moisture, get this soil moist, just a touch of water maybe in the bottom, and then I would cover this with, say, plastic wrap. And I would put the lights on it, and I would just let it go for 2 to 3 months. And then that moss would attach itself and start growing on the stone face. So that when it's finally attached, it'll start filling this in, and when you flood the tank, that's already attached and won't float around. So if I tried to plant moss on here, it would be clunky. I would take bigger pieces and try to glue them or tie them on. It would look clunky. So this way with the dry start, I finely chopped it almost into like paste and then rubbed it on, and it'll give a real nice even texture like you would see walking through the woods on a mossy stone. So that's how you would do that, and that's why you would do a dry start. You can do a dry start to, say, get a carpet going, but I highly discourage that. It's not worth it. One of the things that can happen to you is you get this all grown in after 3 months and you flood it, this might all melt and you lose it all because it's got to transition from its growth, its immersed growth to its submersed form. And it doesn't always make it, especially if you're not running a CO2 enriched tank. What was the question? No, I doubt it. Never. I doubt it. Well, here's the reason. Plant mass, in general, this plant mass, almost half of it is made up of carbon. Where does that carbon come from? CO2. If you just fill this tank with water, some CO2 will go into the water, 3%. 3%, no, that's not right. 3 parts per million. 3 parts per million CO2 will be in the water column. When we run CO2 in the tank, we're at 35 parts per million. So there's just not enough carbon for that plant growth to be optimal. And if you don't have optimal plant growth, you won't be winning an international contest. Yeah, you'd be crazy to even try, because it's so difficult to rank well, and to put yourself at a huge disadvantage is just foolish. There's just no reason to even try. Now, if you just have your tank and you want it to be slow growing and you select the plants correctly, you can run a system without the CO2 and enter the contest. But you probably won't, be in the top rankings. That's all. But if you're doing it to participate, go for it. Again, it's only a fish tank. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. So we're going to harvest this. I'm going to take it right here. Oh, I missed one. Straggler. Okay, so this can go right back into the tanks back there. In every place I cut one of these, you'll get 2 shoots, and they'll be even prettier. So keep that.
So what substrate would you say goes best with darker substrates to accent and complement? And how do you feel like mixing types of substrate?
Okay, so substrate. Small tank like this we talked about, I went with one color, one substrate, because it's small. A larger tank, if you wanted to mix them, that's great. My contest tanks, a lot of times I'll use the aqua soil. You won't see the aqua soil in the photo. You won't even know it's in there. So this is aqua soil here. It's basically pressed clay pellets, and it's wonderful growth medium for the plants. It keeps the soil light and aerated so that the oxygen can penetrate into the soil easily. You can put sand in here, decorative sands, and it goes back to what would go with this stone. So I selected this stone, what would match this stone? So I picked probably a light color of sand, light gray, whitish, beige, something that went with this stone. I wouldn't pick a reddish sand. It would look wrong, right? Yeah. So another thing you can do for substrate is you can use different decorative gravels. I don't think I have any today. You can use decorative gravels and do touches of it. So we could have done this all sand in the front and then put decorative gravel touches in there. We could also got our friend to really smash this stone up into tiny chips and sand basically, and then sprinkle that on our white sand and make a nice effect. That's very common in contest tanks. It naturalizes it, gives you a gradation between these big stones and the sand. So you have different sizes. The plants plant correctly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually use my other pin sets for this. This is a fantastic question. So this group is too big, so I'm going to split this in half, in half, in half. So we're going to have maybe 5 or 6 stems here. So this is the top, this is the bottom. I'm going to hold my pin sets like this, and I'm going to plunge it straight back in, like so. And I'm going to get it, see I'm hitting that stone. I need to add a little bit more substrate. So I'm going to plunge that right in.
So how much of that slant are you putting into the substrate?
Yeah, it's a good question because they can't see. So I buried it to like here. So I buried this much. It's okay, it'll be all right. Yeah, so and then because I do that, because I'm pushing it in so deep, number one, these leaf nodes that I leave on here, you could pick these off, these leaves, and it will grow roots at these nodes. So the more nodes you have, the more place it has to set out roots. And then also, it'll stay in the soil. And then these plant leaves will break down, and they won't cause too much of a mess. And they help hold the plant in place while it roots. So I leave the leaves on and plant deeply. And because I'm only leaving the tips showing, there'll be nice fresh looking plants. So when you see this fill and they open up, you'll see, oh, it's just nice fresh. And I make sure I plant them evenly. So when I cut this, I'll cut this next one to the same height and plant them at the same depth. And this is a really quick way to deal with this instead of, you know, undoing this, and it's kind of a pain. So I can go through this really fast, right? And you go through the stems really quick this way. So that was 2 bunches. That's why you need to buy a lot of plants when you do this. One of the things, if you can't afford to buy plants or you don't have the plants available to you, is to farm them. So you can take this, put it in your tank, do what I did, cut it, right? Cut this off, and then you have this much, bundle this, put it in the same tank, put this in the tank, and start growing them out. And as soon as these come up, do it again, and before you know it, you have enough plants. And I get, so this plant in particular, under my systems, they're high energy systems, and I get 6 inches of growth a week out of this plant. It's a weed. Yeah. 35 parts per million. Yeah. That's what you should be using. 35 ppm. Yep.
It's a lot.
Why? How much do you use?
1 bubble per second?
Yeah, so that's the thing, CO2, right? I don't leave it to bubbles per second or guessing what it is. I actually have a pH monitor that I put in the tank. I measure the alkalinity of the tank, and you can take those 2 numbers and you can calculate what your CO2 is at. And then I can leave the pH probe in the tank and see what my CO2 levels do throughout the day. So I know that my CO2 reached the 35 parts per million when my lights came on, because my pH reading and the KH reading calculated the CO2 at 35. Well, yeah, it's a chart, but you can just use calculators, because the chart is hard to read and it's not granular enough. So I really highly recommend just going online, you look up CO2 calculator, and you can put those 2 values in. I don't guess. I'm not doing bubbles per second. I know I'm at 35 ppm when lights come on.
Do you buffer your water so that when you do a pH drop from CO2?
I don't worry about it. The fish can adapt. Plants don't care. The amount of drop that we get is usually about a point in the range that we're running the hardness of water. So my KH is usually around 2 degrees hardness, right? 2. So it's very soft water on my tap, which is a bonus. It's a benefit of Atlanta. I know here in Knoxville, what's your KH? What was it? Not pH, KH. 15. Yeah, that's a lot.
And our well is very hard. I showed the faucets over there.
And that inhibits some of these plants' growth. Alkalinity, the carbonates in the water will make it more difficult for these plants to grow. So having softer water is a beneficial thing. You still want I still keep the GH, the general hardness, calcium, magnesium up 5 to 6 degrees hardness, KH 2, 1.5 to 2 actually. This stone will raise KH on its own. Yeah. So I guess, you know, here on I'll just finish planting. If you guys want to just mingle or come check it out or whatever you all want to do, I think this pretty much wraps it up.
Let's thank Jeff.
Thank you, y'all. And here's the tank. that I set up for the demonstration. So this is unscripted. This was just all free form, and I think it turned out pretty well. We've got Eleocharis acicularis, dwarf hairgrass, pearlweed, Hemianthus macranthomoides. We have Rotala rotundifolio back here, a little bit of Mayaca, and raided his stash of really nice boosts. That's it. It's just very simple. It's all Ceria stone. And so yeah, we need to get some maybe dwarf baby tears or Monte Carlo, something really low for back in here. We're gonna stick a Wassa thermal filter, the 100 on here, and we had some glassware we're gonna pair this with, and I don't see it now. So here you can see the filters out ready to go, but we didn't have time to put it on there yesterday. 2 hours is a long time for an audience to sit through a demo. So yeah, it was such a fun time. I would do this 100 times over, 1,000 times over. It's so much fun. Just sharing this message of aquascaping, just how wonderful this hobby is. I encourage everybody to give it a try. It's just all about the journey and not so much the destination. Though when you do get to the aquascape tank and it's all grown in, your fish are acclimated, that's just wonderful as well. Such a relaxing hobby.